Hi, hello, how are you? You have Jillian here with Far Out Tiny Homes. Today we're going to be discussing tiny home retirement life. Is it right for you? If you love financial freedom, saving money, and living within your means, then this might be the perfect video for you to consume because let me tell you, retirement tiny life looks pretty sweet. All right, let's get into it. Just picture it with me for a moment. You have this beautiful custom tiny home that literally fits all of your needs. You have downsized and you are looking ahead at retirement as being a lifestyle of less stress and more experience. Doesn't that sound pretty amazing? Today we're going to be discussing tiny home retirement. Well, who am I and why should you listen to me anyway? Well, my name is Jillian and I am the owner of Far Out Tiny Home. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, hello. We love you. Far Out fam, you are amazing. So why even consider retiring tiny? Well, the financial freedom is a big reason, actually reason number one for most folks that are either looking into retiring or have already retired. A lot of folks have a big house, especially right now with the market being so hot. They have a house, they're able to sell it, make quite the profit, and then turn around and pay cash for the tiny house and have zero mortgage, zero debt as far as housing is concerned, which is pretty amazing. Number two, living simply. It's a totally different lifestyle. But let me tell you, most folks that are reaching towards that tiny house life love the idea of less clutter, less stuff, and just living within their means. And number three, which is important to every single person on this planet, is protecting the environment. Did you know that you can cut your carbon footprint in half just by going tiny? It's absolutely amazing. And I definitely encourage anyone at any life stage to consider going tiny just for the amazing impact it does have on our shared environment. So, how do we begin a successful tiny home journey when looking into retirement? For us, the very first thing, the very first stop we are going to make in order for this to be a successful journey is to design a home that fits your needs, and not just a home that fits your needs right now, but a home that fits your needs down the road. If you can see that blue cursor there, it's near this picture where there is a loft and there's this little dude with a red X saying, let's consider this, because right now maybe a loft is something that you are looking into and you want that skylight up there and you just think that's great. But what about 10 years from now? Is it going to have the same appeal? And so we want to make sure that as we sit down to design this tiny house, or you sit down to begin the design process, that you're taking into account who you are right now and who you will be in the next 5 to 10 years. Number two, optimization. We want to make sure that our tiny homes are built efficiently. Therefore, we can live in them efficiently and optimizing our space because the space obviously is so small. So I always tell my clients to earmark a little bit of extra budget for all built-in cabinetry, custom or standard. I mean, you can go pretty inexpensive and go IKEA and get a whole set of cabinetry for just a couple $1,000s, or you can hire a cabinet maker to create them special for your place for quite a bit more. But regardless of whatever you have in your budget, that's definitely something to consider, because while we are downsizing, we still have to remember that we need our basic essentials. And even the basic essentials within the kitchen, it is quite a bit. So you definitely want to make sure that as you design efficiently and optimize for efficiency and quality. And number three, prioritize. Who are you? Where are you going? What's important to you? You want to make sure that as you are designing this house, you are prioritizing the important things, and you want to kind of steer clear away from compromising. Obviously, you're not going to be able to have a 24-foot table for all of your family to sit around during Thanksgiving. So there will be some compromising there. But how else could that picture look? Could you potentially rent out another space and still host Thanksgiving, or maybe host Thanksgiving at somebody else's house? So we want to make sure that as we're looking at the tiny home layout, that we are prioritizing what is important to us and what will be important to us in the coming years, and steering clear of compromising that may lead to destruction. So we have 5 questions that you can ask yourself to kind of see if maybe living the tiny lifestyle in retirement is something that you would be interested in doing. Number 1, does dramatically downsizing your life cause anxiety or relief? Or maybe you're somewhere in between. I definitely say to my clients that haven't even given that much of a thought to sit down and think, what does it look like to get rid of half my things? And then what does it look like to get rid of half of that? And then what does it look like to get rid of half of that? And that's basically where you're at with your tiny home journey. You have to downsize about 75% in order to actually fit most of your belongings in a tiny home. Now, obviously, we are going to have our keepsakes, which leads us to number 2. Are you willing to part with some of those keepsakes you've been storing in your attic for so many years? And parting doesn't necessarily mean just throwing away. Maybe that means giving those special baby blankets or baby books to that child. Maybe that means giving, handing down the pictures now, or handing down items that you want to keep within the family now. And that way they're being utilized and enjoyed and not just stuck up in an attic. Another thing to consider with keepsakes and seasonal items, you can get a storage unit. That's not a tiny home law. You can go ahead and find a 5x5, 5x10, 10x10, whatever it is you need to store your seasonal gear. It just gets a little cumbersome if you're trying to be on the road and going back and forth. And you just have to make sure that you've earmarked an additional expense for that storage unit. And number 3, are you really ready to learn a new lifestyle? One thing that I learned when we went tiny is that when I would get upset or feel flustered, I had this need to go shop, and it just released all those happy hormones after I found like that perfect little knickknack. And what I realized really quick living on is that behavior had to change, and that wasn't something that I was even prepared for. So now we help our clients kind of move through those emotions of, well, what are you going to do in, this situation or that situation? If you really enjoy getting up every morning and reading a book with your favorite cup of tea next to the window, then we better create a space for you to do that, because your lifestyle is going to change a lot, believe me, but those creature comforts don't have to. Now, number 4, how do you feel about designing your tiny home? Are you looking to have a true hands-on approach in the design, or would you like to just say the basic amenities and have somebody else design it for you? This is going to really fluctuate with cost. There are a lot of tiny home builders that have standardized plans that you can kind of customize bits and pieces here and there. And then like Far Out Tiny Homes, we go fully custom from the ground up. So what approach do you want to have? I think that's a really important thing to consider. Do you want to take a lot of the design on, just a little bit on? And if so, ask yourself why or why not. And finally, number 5, do you love financial freedom? Because let me tell you, tiny house living gives you just that. That is the main reason that my family went tiny for 2 years. We were able to pay off all of our debt and open Far Out Tiny Homes. I mean, really, who doesn't love financial freedom? That feeling of paying off that credit card. Well, imagine you sell your big home. You've made a lot of money because the market is super hot right now, and you put some of it down on a tiny home and you just pay it off. Oh my gosh. What an excellent feeling. Let's get this conversation started. It's always good to discuss with one another what's going on, how we are approaching our retirement, and more importantly, how we are approaching our tiny home retirement. I want to thank all you guys for tuning in this week. I hope you have a most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day, and you know what to do. You're going to keep it groovy. Take care, guys.